Well, a very good evening to you and welcome to the hottest day of the year. And why not sit indoors and listen to me and other people rabbit on about West Ham? I mean, come on. What else have you got to do on a Friday night? I hope you're all well. Thank you all for joining me. Really much appreciated. Going to have a couple of guests coming on as well. But, well, they're very familiar faces. And they do all this shit better than I do anyway. I'll bring them on in a minute. So we're going to talk about a number of things. There's been so much going on since I was last on. We've had internationals, Declan getting banned, and transfer windows. The transfer windows open, just in case you weren't aware, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, and what we might be expecting from the season coming up. But let's see who's in the chat before I bring the guests on and say hello to you all. Graham, there you go, mate. 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you. I'll tell you what. I'm glad you. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Matthew. Nice of you to join. Good evening, Hamret. How are you? You're working. Put it on the big screen. Are you in the pub? Put it on the screen and everyone can watch it in the pub. That'll get the numbers up, wouldn't it? Good evening, Anthony. How are you? I hope you're well. It takes him 6 minutes on average to clear the cat out. They're on holiday, mate. They're at the other half's parents. They're running around in the garden. So no cats to worry about. Good evening to you, Chris. I hope you're well. Mr. Dodds, you still haven't given me an answer, mate. We're going to have negotiate. I did speak to your agent, Mr. Khan, about you transferring over, but we'll talk about that soon. Good evening to you, James. How are you? Football memes of the month. Any other deals? I'm not an ITK, but we have someone that is much closer to being an ITK than I am, and he might give you a snippet or two. He's shaking his head. He fucking knows more than he lets on. Good evening, Richard. How are you? Here we go. Maybe not. I'm here. Well, look at that. Good evening to you, Nigel. I hope you're well. Mr. Dodds again. Nigel Khan is talking history, and history is always late. You're going to have to ask him that in a minute, aren't you? Anil, good evening to you. The clue is in what title? There's no clue, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening, NWO. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Pash Beats. I still don't know which one of you it is, but anyway, the fixtures are out. I'm going to be positive and say after the game we will have nil points. Fucking hell. Don't fucking stand next to me at a game, you miserable git. Good evening, Howard. How are you? By the way, it's late night, so I can swear, so don't worry about that. Good evening, John. How are you? Good evening, Epic, Mr. Wheel. Funky jazz intro. I know, mate. I did it just for you. Well, no, I didn't really, but anyway. Right, let's bring on our guest, shall we? Of course, Mr. Khan, Mr. History, West Ham history himself. Look at that. I did ask him before we went on whether he was just doing another term in Borstal.
No, I'm just getting madness up on the Isle of Wight Festival in case you bore me.
Well, you're going to bore yourself, mate, because you're on the show as well. So there you go. And bringing on someone else as well, who's who you all know, Mr. Dan. How are you, mate? I hope you're well.
Good, mate. I'm just bringing the average age down. That's all. That's the only reason I'm
right. That's fucking enough of him. Fuck that shit.
Him up. It's like Friends Reunited here, isn't it?
Well, I thought I'd bring a few people on. Someone someone you're more familiar with than I realised.
Yeah, there you go. I know a lot of people.
There you go. Yeah, we know you know a lot of people. Yeah. So, lads, let's get rid of that. Lads, I mean, a lot's been happening. I mean, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the transfer window? Do you want to start with I don't know, Declan getting banned? I mean, that's a short story. We can get that out of the way if you want. What you think of that?
I don't mind, mate. I don't mind. I'm going to be honest. I haven't really been keeping up with it because it's silly season, and I turn Twitter off this time of year because it winds me up.
I wish I did.
There's so many conflicting stories, and you don't know what to believe. I'm one of them. Once I see him in the shirt, that's it. That's the only time it can be confirmed, isn't it? Because we're going to be linked with every Tom, Dick, and Harry's nan and their pet dog.
We have been, and every time I decide to put a show up, I get absolutely fucking slaughtered for it, as if I'm making the fucking stories up myself. I'll tell you what. Let's start with the transfer window, yeah, because I mean it is the theme of the day, isn't it? So, what are we expecting? And there's so that, like you just said, Dan, there's so many stories out there. What's our expectation? What do we honestly think is going to happen in this window? Is David Moyes going to deliver?
What we need and what we get are going to be two very different things. Because we need 8 players, in my opinion. We ain't getting 8 players. We all know that. I reckon we're lucky if we get 5. I really think we're lucky if we get 5. Just because we know what our board are
Mate,
like.
I'm laughing because I know.
We know what our board are like. You know. Yeah.
Well, this is the question I've asked, right? And I've asked it several times, and I mean, it'd be a good mix of sort of responses here because uh, you hear a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff does get aimed at the board. This time round, I mean, I look at the January transfer window, and it's the first time since the board have taken over that we ain't bought a player in the January transfer window. Was that the board, or was that Mr. Ditherer, or Mr. Diligent, as people want to call him?
I think January and this window are going to be a bit of both. This, for me, just from the outside looking in, like I say, I've not been paying too much attention, but at the minute, I look at the transfer window and I'm looking at the players that we're heavily linked with, and I can't help but think that they're looking for the right deal rather than the right player. It's like they know they've got to get a lot of players in, so it's like, let's find the right deal rather than.
So that means with the kind of players that we've been linked to, like, what's his name, the guy from Southampton who's been quoted at 60,
he ain't coming, is he?
Well, this is it. You see, if we spend 40, 50, 60 million pounds on one player, given the fact that you said we need at least 8, and I agree with you, I think we'll get. I've put my number on 6. I'm hoping we get 6, and that might include maybe a loan deal. But if we spend 40, 50 million pound on one player, that's it, isn't it? We're not going to get 6 in, are we? I mean, Nigel, what do you think, mate?
I disagree about the James Ward-Prowse. We won't get him. Why are they quoting 70 million? Well, 1, they don't want to sell him. 2, he's on a good contract. And 3, there's still 70 odd days until the transfer window's left. Yeah. They're under no pressure to sell him. Yeah. Just because they've said 70 million, don't mean you pay it.
I reckon you're looking at 50 at least, though.
No, yeah, but at some point, and West Ham need to, if the club wants to achieve what the owners are saying and what David Moyes is saying, there's 2 things that need to happen. You need to pay the wages and pay the transfer fees. You know, when Man City were bought by the Arabs, the first day they paid £30 million for Robinho. Now, they weren't a great success, but it's a statement. It's just like, here we are. This is what we're going to do. You know, and clubs know that if you want to break in, at the end of the day, we are not an attractive club. Despite what a lot of West Ham fans have this vision of, we are not an attractive club to players. So the one thing that goes for us is we're in London. But there are 3 bigger teams in London, regular, that finish above us, that they would rather play for. So that's why we get players like Aguerd, Naif. We're signing him. He's a bit unknown from Rennes. You know, if the transfer fee is 30 million, that's possibly with add-ons, agents' fees, and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, so if Claret and you tell you it's 30 million, you know it's actually 20 million, and with everything thrown in, including their fee. So then that, you know, I don't know. That seems like a lot of money, because at the end of the day, how much did we pay for Diop? 21 million?
21, 22, yeah.
So I would have booked him at roughly the same price coming out of the same league.
Well, interestingly, I like a lot of players have come up in this transfer window that have been mentioned last summer and during January as well. And I remember doing a bit on Aguerd this time last year, and he was only 8 million then. So has he really gone up by 22 million pounds? You know, it's impossible. But I think you're right. I think what may also be thrown in there is wages. You know, to get it up to that sort of.
Well, the fees change. The fees change daily, isn't it?
The fees change
15
daily.
million, 22 million, 30 million. I see 40 million euros the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fee.
But that's a trick of Claret and Hugh and the Mr. Whetstone is they'll sell it in euros, because that's a higher price. People will focus on that 40 million and go 40 million, bloody hell. Right? And what they're not seeing is the magic little crappy ye, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a deliberate ploy, to make people think of a higher number.
And also, I mean, this whole thing about him being the marquee signing, does it say if he does become the biggest sign? I don't think, to be quite honest with you, I don't think we're going to go anywhere near that value. I reckon it will be, as you said, Nigel, with agent fees and other things. And I actually really honestly think with maybe salary in that as well, maybe the first year or something. But if he does become the actual marquee signing, what for the second summer transfer window in a row, we paid the highest money for a defender. How are people going to feel when people keep looking at going on about needing a striker? But actually, let me ask you both a question: are we buying an out-and-out striker this summer?
Moyes don't buy him? I can't see it. He'll buy a winger / striker like that
Yeah,
bio that we keep getting linked with.
yeah.
I can see someone like that because he isn't going to cost too much money. The French league is usually a reliable one to get good young players from. That's what I can see. Someone like that, winger / striker. I can't see him buying an out-and-out striker because he just doesn't. He always
Nigel,
turns someone else into a striker, doesn't he?
this is it. This is it.
I mean,
Nigel?
no, he'll be looking for a similar type of player. That's why I think he's looking possibly at Sarr and maybe Dennis. You know, these are names that have been bandied about for ages that West Ham
Yeah.
have been looking on. You know, this ain't new that we've been looking at those two players, and he'll be looking at those players because they can play wide and or play more central. And I don't know. I think Sarr out of the two is probably a decent shout. But if you bring them both in, I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't. And I
No, I
kind
think
of
they'd both be good signings.
I agree. I think they actually will be both good signings. But will people perceive this as being yet another failure? You know, we're not going out and paying. You know, we've just seen Nunes go to fucking Liverpool for 65 million or
But still,
whatever
do
it
you
was.
really think he was
No, I
going
don't.
to right? So, and this is the
No,
thing.
I don't.
Yeah, I was literally
see
just going to say the same thing, Nigel.
people on Twitter exploding. Oh, look, because we dilly-dallied, and you think, no, mate, we didn't sign them because we dilly-dallied. We signed them because we ain't in their league.
Yeah.
It's
No, exactly that. Exactly that.
It's a
But
tough ask.
I think
do it.
social media, and we're going to talk a little bit about social media in a minute because it's my favorite subject at the moment. I think social media will go into overdrive because I agree with you. I actually said it. I actually did a show a couple of weeks ago saying that I think we're going to have a smaller squad than we had last season. You know, because by the time you get rid of we've had 4 players go already. Kral is on his way, and by the time you get rid of 1 or 2 other players that have been, sort of mooted as moving on, and as you've just said, Dan, that means we need at least 8 players, and that's before anyone leaves. I reckon we're going to actually have a smaller squad next season. It might be a more quality squad, but I think in terms of actual numbers,
See, that's
we
interesting
will.
what you say there, because I think a lot of people, especially when you read stuff on social media, a lot of people are getting hung up with some of the players we're getting linked to. Like we've been linked to Dennis the entire window, and it's actually one I could see happening. 20 million, I think that's a reasonable fee for a player with what he achieved in a poor Watford team. But the trouble is, I think people are getting hung up on it doesn't improve the first 11 straight away, but we need a squad. We need depth. That's what we need first and foremost. I don't actually think the first 11 is that bad. We last year, what cost us was not bringing in players in January, packing out the depth, and that allowing us to push on. That's what's cost us. We can't let that cost us again this summer because we'll just be in the same boat next year.
No, I 100% agree with you, and that's why I don't think I think he will go for the versatile players. That we're linked to like the likes of Zinchenko, for example, who now we find out, from the last couple of games he played for Ukraine. Forgive me if I haven't seen this before, but he's all of a sudden a holding midfielder as well as a
He's
left back.
never wanted to play left back still.
Oh,
But
has he not?
it's just because Pep is it's just the way Pep does things. He kind of converted him there. He's openly
Right.
been very unhappy about having to play left back. He started out on the left wing, and then he
That's
plays.
I thought
He
he
plays
was a
central
winger.
for
Yeah.
plays central for Ukraine, and that's where he really likes to play. So
Right. So, do you think Moyes will be sort of, because I agree, I don't think we're getting a striker, and I kind of alluded to just a moment ago. I think the Twitter world are going to go into absolute overdrive when we finish the transfer window and we don't actually have a striker amongst us, it will be Antonio again. And I think, and I've said it a few times. I think Moyes' next project is Bowen. He will convert Bowen into the next striker. Nige, I mean, you kind of alluded to it as well. Are we getting a striker, or are we getting someone that's adaptable?
Yeah, but that's the way of the world. A lot of clubs. I mean, Man City for the last 2 years have not had a striker, but then again, they go out and buy the best striker in Europe. Definitely. If they can win the league by 1 point this season, keep all the players that they've got, and then buy Haaland.
Doesn't bode well, does it?
No, I dread to think what they'll do next season.
He might be shit though. He might.
He's that kid
The
is
issue,
the real deal.
Yeah, do you know the only issue with Haaland is keeping him fit? It's the only thing that's wrong with him.
Yeah.
Right. He gets the odd.
I mean, he's been in and out this season, and this has been a poor season for him at Dortmund. 29 goals.
He's unreal though. He's ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's.
I reckon if Moyes bought him, he'd bench him, wouldn't he? Because he'd just say he's not ready.
Yeah. Too young.
Too young.
I think he's 21, 22.
Yeah.
Is he only that old?
That's all he is.
So it's funny you should say that about
Fucking
too
hell.
young, because now Burnley have been relegated. Not only do we have the smallest squad currently in the league, but we have the oldest squad on average as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing people mention about buying Jesus from Man City. I mean, we can get Jesus off the cross down in Green Street, let alone from Man City. I do find it. Do you actually think that he is going to come to West Ham?
No.
At the end of the day, we've got the money. Lots of clubs have got the money to buy him, and this is the thing about the Premier League and everything. It's even the playing field. The TV money has even the playing field stacked it for the middle clubs.
So
from us. So
let's answer Bernie's question. How much do we think we have to spend? What realistic? I mean, we've heard 150 million being bandied around. We've heard 100 million in the kitty and 50 million that our oligarch is going to give us.
No, let's break it down. Actually, that weren't true. Still,
that was another Claret.
The 150 million comes from the fact that it was first banded about. I don't know if it's Boschum, but definitely that mob over there. Is that in January, Moyes had 30 million in the kitty, and then if he wanted to spend more than that, Kretinsky was going to front up to 20 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the 50
because he didn't spend that. Apparently, Moyes was said, well, what you don't spend, you get in the summer. So then, if you remember, Moyes comes out and says, look, we don't normally get anything decent in January. I decided not to get, we tried a few things, didn't come over the line. Remember they offered the 50 million for Rafinha and the other one who plays for England, whose name escapes me.
Phillips.
Phillips, yeah, Rafinha and Phillips.
Okay, stop you there for 1 minute, mate. How true were those rumours?
Well,
how do we? Do we know?
I think West Ham probably made a bid for him, and I'll tell you why. I think we played Leeds in January, did we not, in the FA Cup? Angus Kinnear, who is the CEO of Leeds, he's someone I crossed swords with when we were moving. Yeah. He was one of the architects of the move to the London Stadium. Yeah. He came from Arsenal, funny enough. Bit of a sack of whatever, but nice enough person. But they were probably sitting there over the table, and someone's gone, I'll tell you what, Angus, we'll give you 50 million for Rafinha and Phillips. Yeah. And he's gone, fuck off. and West Ham, as we know, will claim that. Well, we did put a bid in. So
you have to remember, still every season there is a bunch of we tried bids.
But this is it. I mean,
they're PR.
I almost feel as if I'm defending the owners these days, because I read a lot of this stuff about oh, the owners aren't spending money and all this sort of stuff. And you see the stats that come out, and they do spend money. I've always said that they've just spent money like that.
Poorly.
It's
Yeah,
scattergun
badly.
really, really badly. So
We've had this conversation before still,
Yeah,
where we've said it's
yeah.
not that they don't spend money, they just don't spend it very well. But
Yeah.
you do have to understand Sullivan's PR game, he's known for these "we tried," and I do believe he leaks stuff to make it look like we're busier than we actually are. I believe that. I do believe that.
Nigel's laughing because the voice I've got in my head now is Canning Town Leg going, we tried.
Yeah, but the reason why I go like that is because I don't think people don't. Sullivan's a weird creature, and that's probably being a bit harsh. Yeah, there's certain things about him that probably ain't public, and whatever. And frankly, I don't think he deliberately leaks things to make it look good. What I think is people ask him a question, he will answer.
It's almost too honest. I know that sounds a bit
Too
weird.
open.
Too open.
Too
open, not too honest. Yeah.
So if I can produce emails that I emailed him back when Sam Allardyce was manager, saying you got to sack Sam Allardyce, and he replied to me, and a couple of the emails were a bit. You think you shouldn't really send that to someone you don't know. I'm not Sean Whetstone. You don't know me, and after the whole game, I've said it. He replied to an email I sent him where I said, you got to sack Allardyce, mate, because he's killing this club. And he actually replied to me within 10 minutes. I've never felt so low after a victory after that game. Now, what does that say? This is the chairman of a club just responding to someone that's managed to find his email address. I'm surprised I didn't go into the spam box. But so the reason I'm saying it ain't to show what happened is that actually, if you know how to contact him and you do it, it's a 50-50 chance he'll answer you.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you. So it ain't about deliberately leaking. Obviously, look, I ain't going to dress it up. Has he got his favourites? Of course he has. We know who they are, But the thing about it is it's become a business now to certain places.
Yeah.
And they have to treat that differently. The thing is, I don't know whether he can switch it off or not.
Yeah. Before we move on, Richard's got a question for you, Nigel.
Fucking hell.
No. That says it all. That reply says it all.
So look, we hear that Aguerd, like he's had his medical. Apparently, he's ready. I've looked him up. I've done a collage of stuff that I'm going to be putting out soon about him. He's
signed. Look, he's signed.
Yeah.
He's our player. They're going to announce him. It's
exactly
done.
So this whole shenanigans about fucking Newcastle and Sean winding me up with his stories, the retired Sean Whetstone. I mean, Newcastle. I mean, he gave me the song and dance. Well, no, not the song and dance. He said, "Look, these things happen. Clubs do come in at the 11th hour, and put late bids in for players that have already sort of agreed, even though they haven't actually signed on the dotted line. Right up to that moment, a club can come in and steal the bid. And I'm sure we've done it for players before, and I'm sure we've had it done to us before. Was there ever any danger, or is there ever any danger in Newcastle stealing a march, not just on West Ham? Because we live in our West Ham bubble, don't we? We all think that it only happens to West Ham. But this happens elsewhere, doesn't it? I mean, players agreeing to come, but before they sign, they might be snapped up by someone else. This isn't just happening to West Ham, is it?
A lot of people seem to think we've got more pull than we actually have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fans out there. Nigel said a few times, some of the unrealistic transfer targets people link us with. Oh, he'd make us better, but it's a player that's never going to join us. You only have to look at what, Villa do. Yeah, Villa, they've been piping up big time on social media, haven't they? We're a bigger club than you, blah, blah, blah. But, haven't beat us in 10 years, haven't finished above us in 10 years, but, you carry on. But they throw money at players. You look at the signings they've made. They just signed a 30-year-old defender on 180 grand a week. you know, paying Coutinho 190 grand a week. They're going to throw these wages at players. That's some clubs use that as pulling power, don't they? Newcastle are going to have that in their arsenal now. They've got very, very well-off owners. They're going to have the ability to throw money at the window. And it wouldn't surprise me if they came in last minute, because they might think, well, we could probably offer more than they're going to pay him. And then they might think that they can get that bid done successfully. But if they're really interested, why are they not bidding straight away like we did?
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? They got all the money in the world now, Newcastle. They don't have to compete with us, do they? They can just, as you just said, I mean, if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be thinking of the Nunez's. I'd be thinking of the 70, 80 million pound players.
Yeah, but still, and I'll tell you, the thing about it is as well is it's got to be even with Newcastle. Look how long it took Man City. Yeah, look how long it took Man City. It didn't happen straight away. You know, there was even one year where they lost to Spurs and Spurs pipped them for top four, I think, when Harry was manager of Spurs, and they still hadn't made the top four for Champions League. It didn't happen in the first. I think they were bought in 2008, were they not? And they won the title in 2011. So it was 3-4 seasons before City finally got it together. It was about 3 seasons before they finished in the Champions League. Newcastle's first port of call is to take our spot, and that's possibly why they may be looking at the players like Aguerd or you know, wherever. The thing is, you got to remember, not so long ago, Newcastle were big shoppers in the French market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had Papa Cisse, didn't they? Obviously, they took Demba Ba, who we'd already had, and they had a couple of others, didn't they? So in the past, the French market's been good. The French market is not new to us, but Newman's speciality apparently at Man City was the French market.
Mm-hmm. Hence being linked to so many players in the French league over the past sort of 6, 7, 8 months. Yeah. I mean, this is an interesting one. A comment here from Ballon Dawson. Our board and Moyes are so unambitious. Would you own a club or would you manage a club if you didn't have ambition? Is that a fair comment or
no? I don't think it is. Oh my God, I sound like Golden Sullivan's cheerleader, don't I? But it's the thing is, this is the thing. Are they unambitious? No, they're not. The thing about the owner of a football club is the custodian of the football club. His job is to make sure that when he passes it on to the next owner, whoever that be, that it's in a healthy position. At the end of the day, we can go around, just go and stare at Derby County. Just look at the clubs that have sunk down there. You know, 30 years ago, Oldham picked us to the title to go into the Premier League. Look where Oldham are playing now. You know, in 30 years of Premier League football, I think we're approaching 50 clubs have played in the Premier League. So look at it. The fact that West Ham are still there, financially viable, which we are, you know, it's not about ambition. It's not overextending yourself. Leeds, you know, Leeds were lucky to stay in the division. Yeah, they've done well or whatever. Remember, it took them 16 years. This is Leeds, who have been in the Champions League. Well, finished top 4 in 2 or 3 times when David O'Leary was manager. And what they did there was they chased a dream, overspent on wages and players,
and it hit them.
Got burnt so bad they ended up playing League One football for 4 years.
And this is the thing. I know Newcastle have got, you know, all the money in the world now. But I kind of said this on a show recently, etc. You can spend all the money in the world, doesn't automatically buy you success.
No.
You know, and the one thing that Newcastle have got is, I mean, I know this whole new revamped financial fair play is coming in, if it fucking works, if FIFA and UEFA actually abide by it or make clubs abide by it. But there will be a limit on, it doesn't matter how much money you got, there will be a limit on clubs like Newcastle.
Well, Newcastle's limit this summer is about 220 million.
Right.
based on the last few years. They've got a limit already. They might have a really rich owner, but they've still got that limit in place.
But the best thing Mike Ashley did for Newcastle was not spend money. No.
Ironically,
ironically, because what happened is there was such a surplus when he sold the club that as Dan just said, they can go out and spend 220 million this window and not go near the financial fair play.
Yeah.
Or even a hint of it. So, this, bearing in mind they've already spent money in January as well, bringing in players.
Yeah.
And some good players as well. Guimaraes from Lyon, even getting Trippier was
quite astute.
Was a good sign.
Yeah.
From Atletico Madrid. So, the thing we've all got to be prepared for is for Newcastle to supersede us at some point.
And that might, like you just said, that ain't going to happen overnight. They might get lucky. It might happen this coming season. But we've got a nucleus. I mean, Dan, you just said, mate, our first 11 is to be reckoned with. When you look at our first 11 on the pitch, that's a pretty decent side. Most clubs will turn around and go, that's a pretty decent side.
Well,
so
I personally would have no problem going into next season with that 11 as our first 11. My issue lies with the rest. It's just that there's a real lack of strength in depth. All right, are there positions that could be improved? Yeah, I think we can all agree that Cresswell probably needs replacing. I think a new left back is probably a definite. We could do with a centre mid option, and we could do with a striker option. I think they're the three key that I would be working on. And I know Moyes has got this whole stick about it has to improve. The only players I want to buy are those that improve the starting 11. But when you've got so many spots to fill, we've got so many needs, I think you've got to think about the strength in depth first.
Yeah,
you've got to start thinking about those people that can impact off the bench, because we didn't have that. I think that's what we lacked last season.
I think that's what we lacked. Yeah, I've got talking about transfers. I've got an exclusive. Richard Dodds, so good he named his surname twice. Nigel, should I complete a transfer for a £5 from you to Stelios? Seems a good deal. Stelios, I will confirm I'm happy to work for a beer a week to work for you both, but it must be Thatcher's Rose. Never fucking heard of it.
It's cider, probably. Or Zoider.
Oh, it's cider.
He's West Country boy, isn't he?
He is, yeah. All right. It's
to be honest, Rich, I didn't ask for any money for you. I'll leave Stel to tell you actually what Mar said. And I was wondering if Stelios actually his little brain ticked over thinking, is he serious? Or is he on a wind up again?
I did pause I paused and thought, fuck me, he might be serious here. And then when Andy went, I don't think he wants you to do it, I went, no, he's taking the piss. Right, I got a little shout out to make. So good evening, Darren. I hope you're well. And I hope all the other mugs are watching. Here we go. Look, I've been asked to promote them. Mugs on tour. Look at those faces. Oh, sorry. Hang on a minute. Look at those faces. So, hello to Paul, Bowles, Gary Paul, David Wright, Andy Clay, Darren, who's on the left there, Mr. Lafranc, John Lafranc, Rupert, and, of course, in the middle, Tony Ball. Hello to you all. I hope you're well. And there's your shout out. I bet you don't fuck off now after I've given you a shout out. Stuart. For me, Stel, and I think all football has become a disease sport. The Qatar World Cup. Well, I wasn't going to talk about the World Cup, but why don't we? The Qatar World Cup is a joke. The fixture pileup will be a joke. Go on. World Cup in the middle of fucking winter.
Well, that's look. The time to complain.
Probably not the best person to talk to. I don't really watch international football.
Yeah,
do you not watch the World Cup?
No.
Yeah, I'll have it on, but it don't do it for me still.
Really?
I'm English, mate. We're fucking god awful. Do you know what I mean? It's just.
Well, we got the semi-final 2018. Just lost out in the Euros on penalties.
Apart from that, I'm really surprised, Dan. Actually, I'm actually really surprised, mate. I get
have it
you. I
on.
don't.
I'll have
I
it
didn't
on.
watch the Nations League. I mean, I was on holiday, but I couldn't really be arsed with it. But when it comes to like the Euros and the World Cup, I have to be honest. I get fucking excited. I
No,
get
don't
the
get me wrong.
sofa
Like
fucking
I'll
right. You
watch the
know.
tournament, but I don't get that invested in England. I just don't. The last proper time I probably got invested in England was Euro '96.
Mm.
You know, so but I was a kid.
Yeah, I weren't.
Different.
I remember that. Nigel, is the World Cup going to completely fuck up the fixture? I mean, it's going to be a
Well-
weird one because what happens is you finish the season, you psych yourself up, you go to the World Cup, you play, etc., you come back and so on. Now, halfway through the season, we're going to have to stop the domestic league, psych ourselves up for the World Cup, and then come back and try and finish the season off. It's weird, isn't it?
It is weird. The time for the leagues of Europe to do anything about it was in 2012 when the decision was made, 2014 when the decision was made, not now. You know, if the football world wanted to stop it, that's when they should have stopped it. It was pretty obvious that the World Cup couldn't be played in the summer there because of the temperatures. So, you know, it was obviously it was going to be a winter. Now, the funny thing about World Cups is that World Cups in the summer, at the end of seasons, tough European seasons, you generally find sometimes that some of the best players are injured or carrying injuries.
Yeah.
So you go back to the World Cup. So go back to World Cup 82, the first one I watched where England played. We had no Keegan, no Brooking for 20 minutes in the last game against Spain.
I remember that.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we jumped forward to 86. England's best player at the time was Brian Robson, kept
Injured.
popping his shoulder. When we got done it against Morocco, funny enough, after he got injured, we actually started playing better, and that's when they discovered Lineker and Beardsley against Poland. But so we have these injury problems. Yet by playing it in the middle of the season, it actually means it's possible that players may be a bit more fresher than they are normally in a World Cup, fitter because they've not just done 40, 50 games of a season. So it may be that, and in rugby, they played a World Cup in November and December, you know, or they have done when they played the Southern Hemisphere. So they will
with
stop
rugby,
their
they'll
season.
carry on playing the league season during the big ones like Six Nations and that.
So, you know, they've played, you know, when England won it, I believe that was in the November of 2001 when we won the World Cup in rugby. So it's one of them things. It'll be, for me, I'm interested to see how the players play. Could it be that it'll be better because we'll be going into the
pressure?
The only thing is that normally in August we'll have 3-4 games in the Premier League. September we'll have 3 games. October we'll have 3 games. November we'll have 4 or 5, and then December we normally go mad and have 8. This time round, I think by the time we stop in the middle of November, I think we'd have played 16 Premier League games.
Yeah, it's all going to be squeezed up, isn't it?
So,
because don't they still want to get the season finished by the end of May, don't they?
Yeah. So there's this condensing and packing of the games. Bearing in mind it's an early start. Bearing in mind it was a late finish. You know, it's. I think COVID has helped cause problems where if there hadn't been COVID, it may have been a better setup for the England team to run at it for the World Cup. You know, as for the political side of it, I'd totally agree. You know, it's a show we could do again. I think the governance of football is rotten to the core.
Absolutely,
it is from the FA, from the EFL, all the way even to the Football Supporters of Federation and everything else. Nobody's really in it to look after the match-going fans.
No.
We have now become bottom of the list, and that's what we are. And the worst thing, I don't know, you know, the story's being punched about again of the MLS has done a deal with Apple, so this is a big tester now. I know it's going a bit off market here, but the MLS has just sold a deal. Every MLS game is going to be on Apple TV. Yeah, I think from not next season or whatever.
Shades of things to come.
So it is the Premier League going to be looking at that.
Well, Simon Jordan was talking about this on Talksport.
Yeah, so it's thing.
And he worked it out at something like, if it was £10 a month with X amount, you're looking at so basically the Premier League could clean up essentially, because he was saying you need to bin off the 3 PMs and whatever. And I see the thing is, I don't think you have to remember when Italian football did that, numbers went down, didn't it? In the stadiums, yeah, and a lot of the clubs, and they struggled as a result. But I think that we're in an age now, the social media age and whatnot. I don't think it will affect the match going experience at all. Having all the games on TV, I don't.
No, look, the one thing about the move to Olympic Stadium that baffles me is I don't know where the fuck we got all these supporters from. I'm sorry.
No, you only have to go to 2 o'clock on a Sunday.
But
still,
I said you only have to go to a 2 o'clock on a Sunday to
see how many fans we really have. All right, back in the dark days, I've been at games where I think there was 12 or 13,000 in the ground. It was some shitty cup game or whatever, But then I can remember even before we left some games there where there was a Barnsley Cup game. I walked into my block, there was me and my 3 mates in the whole block, 200 seats, and I still had a row with the steward, believe it or not. I just summed it up when he come and told me to take my flag down for health and safety reasons. I told him, fuck off, we're the only people here. But let's touch on a couple of things.
Why ain't people come? This is the thing. If it does still go, I think the fans will go because it's become such a social thing now going to football. More than the football itself.
I don't want to jump ahead too quickly, but Sunday games, we suffer for crowd like numbers. Big, and we're gonna experience that again.
All the out of towners struggle to get a train decent on a Sunday, didn't they?
Here we go. I want to pick up a couple of things before we move on. James's question: why did Stuart Pearce leave? He reckons he left because of the whole shenanigans going on in the background, etc. But we've heard this, haven't we? We've heard that he's got to 60. Fuck me. Talk about slowing down. I know what it's like because, by the way, I just turned 62.
And I freedom pass people. Look, he don't even have to pay to go to West Ham.
I fucking don't. And I fucking love it. And then when I used it the other day, I was like, there you go. I went to pick up my prescription the other day and the lady went, age? And I went, 60. She went, there you go. Didn't even ask me for any money. I fucking love it. Why not? I paid my dues. Anyway.
When we go Watford, he'll be paying, it's the freedom pass. He'll be going, I only pay one stop. Look,
did Piercy leave because of what's going on? Or is it because of, what we've just alluded to? He just wants a quiet life. He just wants to do a bit of radio stuff and media stuff, should I say. And not having to travel around the country with the club, with the team, and all that.
He's just got married. I've heard he's just got married.
And he's just got married, yeah.
He wants to go to more gigs and all, doesn't he? Big music fan, loves going to a live gig, doesn't he? He just wants a bit of time to go and do that, I reckon.
Public image of buying him soon. He'll be banned, and I'm sure he'll be banned down there.
And let's move on to another thing. Whilst we're on about England, is he the fall guy for Southgate's absolute shit fucking performance? Well, England's shit performances over the last 4 games. Will Bowen, having been given his first few caps, will we now see the last of Bowen? And who was the other guy that got his cap during this
Gallagher, Conor Gallagher.
Gallagher, and there was a right back, wasn't there, or something like that? Can't remember. But are these going to be 4 guys?
Yeah, but from what I see, weren't Bowen pretty good?
No, I think he was. But it's just the way that
when compared to the players he was playing with, who were also playing badly.
Go on.
So, there were times when he got the ball and he should have laid it off.
But isn't that international naivety that he'll learn from?
Yeah. No, yes. I think there was enough there for Southgate. The thing for Bowen is it's tough, right? We had these 4 games. There's 2 games in September. He's got to pick the World Cup squad then.
Right. This is why I'm asking the question.
So
is he going to be one? Because I actually think
he needs to hit the ground running in the Premier League. Basically, he needs to start
Right.
this season coming the way he finished last season to stand a chance. Otherwise, Southgate will go back to the tried and tested. He needed a goal, really.
Yeah.
For me to the thing is, it's hard to judge him because let's face it, they were unlucky in the first game against Hungary. It was never a penalty. Yeah, so they lost the first game 0-0, but it was still a poor performance. It was a tired performance. The draw with Italy, the draw with Germany, we were fortunate there. We got a penalty. I thought.
Yeah,
we
were fortunate. Yeah.
You know, another couple of poor performances. You think, well, it's all on the Hungary game. I think I couldn't even bother to watch it. I've seen the highlights. That was even worse, obviously. But he didn't put out, his best 11 by any means. You know, Southgate used these as training games.
Yeah.
So, he's put a lot of pressure on those fringe players that he's looking at for the first time, like the Conor Gallaghers, like the Bowens. But I think Bowen, the fact that he persevered with Bowen, and he got on in 3 of the 4 games, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I think that says actually he's still, out of anyone, got the outside chance of making the squad. But I think he's got to continue with the goals.
New season.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah. No, I kind of agree with everything Nigel said there. I do think if he'd have probably grabbed himself a goal, then you put yourself in line a bit more, didn't you? Especially as that's what he was kind of renowned for, weren't he, this season? He's up there with, a lot of the English players. Weren't he like second for goals and assists?
Yeah.
On that list of English players. Only Maddison was ahead of him. And that's a mad one. Maddison was probably the best player out of everyone.
Yeah.
Didn't make it into the squad.
Yeah.
So who really knows? Who really knows what's going on with in Southgate's head a lot of the time? It was so negative, I just think he's got the players he trusts, and they're the ones he'll go with.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's move on to the season, because we've just alluded to, the whole, the season's going to be disrupted by the World Cup, etc. What are we looking at for next season? What do you guys think the season holds for us? I'll start with the Premier League, because I'm going to talk about the cup competitions as well. But let's focus on the Premier League. Are we? And I know a lot of this is going to be about who we sign in the transfer window, who other clubs sign, etc., etc. But I listened to your podcast on Monday night. Or no, it was Tuesday, wasn't it? And I'm not saying that you were down on what might come about next season, but you kind of alluded to that maybe the season coming up might not be as good as what we've had the last 2 seasons. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah. If you look at the form in the last 10 games, weren't great.
That weren't good.
Yeah. So our points, our challenge for the top 4 was a false challenge, because when we were top 4 November, December, the COVID games had kicked in and we'd kept playing. So you had the likes of Tottenham, who were like 6 points or 5 points behind us, but 3 or 4 games behind us as well. But aside that, if you look how far they finished above us, they've more than compensated it for it. So I just look at this squad. I think the age of it, as it gets older, it gets slower, and he's not going to go out. I don't think he's going to go out and do 7, 8 players. So I think you're going to look at 4 or 5 players in this window, and then so I can see it sort of. He's got to regenerate the squad. And I'm always one that says evolution, not revolution. And it could be we'll have to take a bit of short-term pain in the league. I'm not saying don't compete. Let's go for a top 10 finish, because only twice in our history have we done 3 top 10 finishes in a row in top flight. So we can still achieve that. But, that's the way. I don't see us competing. A lot of people looked at us up until January, February time, sitting there 4th, 5th, but they were, as I say, false positions because Arsenal's and the Spurs hadn't played the same amount of games as us.
Dan?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is,
Sorry,
hang
Dan.
on. What you're saying is, Nigel, is if we make the top 10, that's a good season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that though. I agree with that. Based on if you look at the squad and what it is now, what we need to do in the window, obviously we've got to qualify for the Europa Conference, but you're going to have European football again potentially. We see what that took out of the team this season with the small squad. So you could be in that position again this season, but I don't think we're going to be strong enough to keep pushing. And it was a false position, like Nige says. We might have been there or thereabouts for a long time, but there were a lot of teams below us that had a lot of games in hand over us. And the minute they started winning those games in hand and catching up, we kind of got left behind, and especially because we were so poor at the end of the season, weren't we?
Yeah.
Because the team was just dead on its feet by the time the season finished.
You're both saying top 10 is a good season. The fan base realistically, and I'd be inclined to agree with that. I mean, for me, I'm hoping that we, even if it's the Europa Conference League, I'm hoping we still get into Europe, because it might be, with the clubs that we've just spoken about, Newcastle, Villa, spending all this money, etc. This might be our last season. I hope I'm wrong, to be able to get to that position before those sorts of clubs overtake us, if that makes sense. If they do well, and for me, I'm thinking about, you guys are being realistic, saying top 10 will be good. The fan base are going to go fucking nuts.
The new fan base will.
Is it just the new fan base?
The new fan base will. I think the thing for those of us, you've both supported West Ham longer than me, but even I'd like to think of myself as a realist, but I think the newer fan base, that have come along in the last few seasons, all they know is the good times. They don't know they don't know about the shit, do they? So they look at this West Ham and they go, yeah, amazing. Two top 7 finishes back to back, playing European football, really good in Europe. We've got Rice, we've got Bowen, we've got this, that, and the other. But we all know, flick of a coin, the right bid comes in, Rice and Bowen could be off. We know that. We know that's what happens when you're a club like West Ham. You're not a Man City or a Liverpool and holding on to your best players all the time. It's just realistically, it can't be that way. And again, realistically, we can't go and throw £200-300 million at a transfer window. We just can't do that. So then it's about finding the right players to make you strong enough to finish top 10. I'd be happy with top 10. If we're competitive in Europe again, I think it will be hard to top the season we've just had. We had an unbelievable European run. Yeah, we didn't make it to the final, but it was an amazing run, amazing memories throughout the season. I still think to finish top 7 was a great achievement in the end. When you look at how the form went up and down, especially after Christmas, I see that as a good season. But there were fans at the end of the season were like, "Oh shit, we should have done this, we should have done that."
I guess that's what I'm alluding to, and this is why I kind of spoke a little bit about social media and the expectations and all that sort of stuff, because I can see, if we do not finish in the top 7, I'm going to give it the top 7. If we do not finish in the top 7, social media is going to go into fucking overdrive at the end of the season. And you will get the Moyes out, players are shit, etc., because we've had 2 decent seasons, and all of a sudden expectation has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And there's that expectation. You just said, Dan, we can't compete with, let's be realistic here. We cannot compete with the teams that have got all that money. Doesn't matter what you say. And then it goes to this whole issue about board out. Let's get rid of the board. 2023 is the year when we're going to really take off, because Gold and Sullivan are going to leave and all that sort of stuff. And we're going to get someone that's going to come in and buy the most expensive players. As I've said, and I think, Dan, you've said, and I heard it on your show, Nigel, we're all expecting Kretinsky to be the the person that's going to come in and solve all our problems. Well, he's been here, what, 8 months, 9 months already? And we've been through a transfer window where he hasn't solved our problems.
Well, to be fair to the man, yes, remember I said it earlier. Moyes was told you got so much to spend, and Kretinsky has said he will put up. Now, Moyes never tested that because, first of all, he didn't even spend the guaranteed money he had. Now, there's stories going round about possibly the same offer. The thing is, the world has changed for Kretinsky now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, some businesses are making money, some businesses aren't making money. But the thing is that I look at it, and I did allude to it on the podcast on Tuesday, is that when you look at Kretinsky, he's not the owner of Sparta Prague. Yeah, he only owns 40% of it. But the other 60%, because he's the biggest single shareholder, have afforded him control of the club. What has that club ever done? Now, if you're a Sparta fan, yeah, in Prague, with this Czech owner that's been there for 10, 12 years, and all of a sudden you see him start putting 40, 50 million pound into West Ham, what are you going to think? Plus also, where's the return for him? If you look at it, everything to him, when you look, it's all about investment. He's invested in this business. He's invested on that business. And it's almost like he's invested in the Premier League. I don't see him as someone that's going to, billionaires.
Isn't he more asset rich than he is cash rich anyway?
Yeah, the same as possibly Sullivan, funny enough, But, and this is the thing I always say is, go and read Simon Jordan's book and you'll find out why the modern day football owners that are billionaires, multi-millionaires, are not going to put their own money into football clubs. Because there's a man now, they don't want to be on Talk Sport in 5 years' time, having to earn a nickel. Because believe me, where would Simon Jordan rather be? In the boardroom at Crystal Palace or sitting next to the bleeding sweaty sock moaning?
Yeah.
That and he sunk all his money into Crystal Palace and lost it a lot.
Lost it all.
So
it goes back to the original question then about, how, because people are asking in the chat still, how much money do we have to spend? Are the board ambitious? Is Moyes the right manager to sort of take us forward, etc.? I mean, what is our expectation? I think have people been carried away?
Still, the thing is, expectations are individual to the people. There's no, I don't see a fan base expectation. When we say, the fan base is going to be apoplectic, what we're talking about is about 3,000 people on Twitter. Now, if we took a poll of that 3,000 fans on Twitter, 1,000 of them live abroad. Yeah, I'm not knocking them. I'm just pointing it out. Yeah, a third of them probably live abroad. The other third probably watch all the games on telly. And, so actually when you knuckle it down, what do the 60,000 fans think in the stadium?
Yeah. This is linked. Ballon asks, ask Nigel, do you think Moyes manages expectations by not splashing the cash? I.e., if he spends more, the pressure's increased on him.
Well, I think before Nigel answers, I think we've already seen proof of this with Vlasic.
Yeah.
Because he spent a fair amount of wong on him and he didn't produce the way the fans wanted. I think a lot of Vlasic's problem is Moyes playing him out of position personally, but that's just my opinion.
I think so, because he always said, I prefer to play down the middle.
Look at his numbers. Look at his numbers at his club that we loaned to buy from. You look at his numbers, played through the middle and striker, scored all them goals, all them assists, comes to West Ham, Moyes sticks him out on the left where he doesn't want to play. Openly said, doesn't want to play there. So, but I think that's one. I think that's a very good example of that. He spent quite a bit of money on him, didn't produce, and now we're looking to sell him. And the clubs that are linked with him, they're not going to pay us the money we've spent. They're not.
Will that make Moyes more careful in the transfer market? He's quite a proud man. Yeah, he's always careful, but will he make him even more careful? He's quite a proud man. He doesn't want to look like he's failing. It's quite evident that he worries. He has that concern about his persona, especially what happened to him at Man United and so on. He kind of worries. What the hell was that? What was that?
That's me.
What?
It's me. It's me, Dave Sullivan beer opener.
Do you think by failing? Fuck me, that threw me. Do you think by failing, not failing? I hate that word. Do you think by signing Vlasic, it ain't worked out? Because I totally agree with you, Dan. He's not played him in the position that he should have done. By doing that, does that make him even more cautious in this summer transfer window?
Maybe.
Yeah. Dodsey has said, "Fuck me, Nigel. Protecting Sullivan, Canning Town, Len. Are you listening?"
He's probably tucked up in bed, ready for the big day out tomorrow. So,
yeah, you're having your end of season
Christmas party. Yeah,
I would have mine, but I'm on my own. So where was I? I've lost my train of thought. Okay, let's move on. We talked about the Premier League, and this has been slated to hell, but fuck me, it's European football as far as I'm concerned. Is the Europa Conference going to be a hindrance for us, or should we go out and try and win a trophy? And should this be the one that we try and win?
Yeah.
Well, I want a bit more than just
Yeah, but I don't understand. But I don't understand this people's opinion on this competition. Still, I don't get it. People are
mate, I don't either.
It's fucking Europe. We're West Ham. Like I can't get my head around it. I can't get my head around it. I've never seen us win anything. I've never physically seen us win a fucking thing other than a couple of playoff finals. Do you know what I mean?
I forget how young you are, mate.
Yeah, went to the FA Cup final, watched us lose on penalties. Like I've not. So if we had a chance to go there, and I don't care if I end up in the arse end of Kazakhstan, mate, to go and watch a fucking game. If it means I can go on a European tour, and go and watch West Ham, I don't care if it's Champions League or Europa Conference. I just don't. I just want to watch West Ham playing at a high level, and people are talking shit. Roma are a big club. They're the winners. They're the current holders. That's
Mourinho
a big club in Italy.
Have won it, wasn't he?
Well, see him at full time, giving it five European finals, 5 wins.
Yeah.
It meant a lot to the club, to the fans, and to him. And if a big club like Roma are up for winning it and enjoying playing in it, we should be as well.
Why that was special for Roma? That was the first ever European trophy they won.
But it
still stands, though, doesn't it? It still stands, though, doesn't it? They're a big club.
I think the best thing for that tournament was for a club like Roma to win it, because then people think, oh, you know what? Because at the end of the day, I think they were going to get Europa League anyway, so it weren't like, it weren't like it was something that was dependent on it. And the fact that we got a run, we did so well in the Europa League, and we beat some Champions League teams on the way. So I think that says we need to go all out. Not go all out, actually, but we need to have a good run in this league, at this competition, and really go and win it. No, I think he will, actually. I think he will. I think he showed that with the Euro. And this is the thing where people people can complain about the, Europa League, and, let's say the Europa League cost us, 4 or 5 points by being in it. So it cost us positions in the league. So bloody what? We got to the semi-final of a European competition. We don't do that.
The irony, though, is every game we didn't suffer, because you look at teams in the past like Wolves and other clubs that played in Europa League, and when it came to playing their league game the following game, they kind of suffered, but we didn't suffer as in that same way. We actually still did reasonably okay after Europa League games. So despite the fact that we had a small squad, etc.,
I think that's what it was, though. Still, the limitations of the squad actually helped us because he was forced into having to play his strongest team. You know, I think if we'd have had more options off the bench, I then maybe wouldn't have played such strong teams, 3 days after a Europa game, personally. But who knows, really? Who knows what goes on through his head? But there's a lot of people saying he's unambitious. We all see how regretted he was when he lost that semi-final. You can't tell me. Managers don't just do this for a laugh. They want to win things, And Moyes had a chance there to get into the final. He was gutted, and it boiled over. It boiled over. We all see him absolutely slaughter the ball, and he'd had enough.
Yeah, I think his comments after the Brighton game. I've never seen him give, not his time at West Ham.
Do you reckon that was a sort of like the outcome of what actually happened in Europe rather than the Brighton game?
I don't know what possibly when the fact that Man United lost, and so he could have got 6th spot. The funny thing is, when he come here and said, I've come here to win things, I want to make history. Actually, 2 top 6 finishes in a row has never been done at the club.
So he's made.
He would have made history. Just and it's the thing. It's just little things like that.
Well, talking about Moyes and Declan, we heard today Declan got a 2-match ban. That ain't going to make a difference, is it? In these playoff games for Europa Conference?
Well, it might affect him playing in the Champions League, but I mean.
What do you mean?
Oh, sorry.
You're doing a Clarence Hugh there, mate.
Oh,
fucking hell.
Only joshing people. Don't.
That's going to be out tomorrow. Declan misses the first 2 Champions League games for.
Friend of Club Insider says.
And Moyes got a 1-match ban, didn't he, for getting upset as well? Yeah, it's not going to affect. I mean, we're going to. I mean, Dan, you just said, we've got to go out and win this, haven't we?
Yeah, you've got to, mate. You've got to. At the end of the day, you got that close with the Europa League. You've got to take this competition as seriously, in my opinion. The fans want to see clubs win things. I know Nigel might disagree. He just wants to see goals, entertaining games, doesn't he? But but it would be nice.
Yeah. No, the thing about it is, I've always said is, and it's always baffled me, is the history of this club is solely built on winning cups. It's never been about the league. And I get it, people get wrapped up now in the top 4. We never had this worry back in the day. We wanted to win cups. Let's get to finals of cups and then let's win cups. So this is as good as a cup team as I've seen in bloody years. Funny enough, the last great cup team was probably Avram Grant's, who got the quarter final and semi-final.
The irony.
Yeah, the irony. I think he won more cup games than he did in the league.
He fucking did.
And we've been poor in the cups under Golden Sullivan. Under Allardyce, we were poor.
Oh, Allardyce can give a shit about the cups.
That's what I'm saying. Bilic was okay. Pellegrini, even since the move, we've lost to the likes of Oxford and Wimbledon, and Wigan. And you think, come on, all League One cups.
Pellegrini,
under Pellegrini, that's disgraceful.
He didn't have the understanding of what a domestic cup will do for a club.
Yeah.
So, I was gonna ask you, is it time to win a domestic cup? Or, I mean, if you have your choice, okay, and you got to just get one answer, and you can't do a combination of top 6, Europa Conference, or one of the domestic cups. Which would you go for?
Well, still, I'm on record many a time saying, fucking relegate us. But if we hold that FA Cup up at the end of the season, I ain't complaining.
I actually said last season, funny enough, Nigel, I remember saying to Stell, I don't give a shit if we finish 17th, but if we was to win the Europa League, it doesn't matter. You've won something. That means more.
Hey, we can finish 18th, 19th, or 20th. If we win a cup, let's
people are too hung up on this whole finishing top 4, top 6.
But and this puts into perspective what club we are. We're not. I'd love us to be, but we're not a top 4 club, are we? You know,
No.
we're miles away from that, and we may never ever be a top 4 club. Is that unfair? Is that being unambitious?
It's difficult to
or is
debate
that
that
a
at
realism?
11:15 on a Friday night still, because it will take another 2 hours. But I get it when people go, "Oh, Nigel's not ambitious," and I think, well, actually, do I want to see West Ham win the league? It's not. I don't know. Actually, I put my hand on my heart, and I think not really bothered, actually. You know, but I want us to win the FA Cup. I'd like us to win the FA Cup another 5 times before I die, but we ain't won it 5 times. So,
No.
you know, but you know, just fucking winning it once would be brilliant, actually.
I'd just love to see us win something.
Yeah, you know what? We won the Betway Cup. So you must remember the Intertoto Cup win of 1999.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Fucking that little trophy that was like that. So, but on seriously, you know, this is the thing. I don't get hung up on the league. I don't. And perhaps that is me. Perhaps that's me being unambitious. I don't know. Or is it me being realistic? I look at the top 4. I look at the top 6 in a way. You know, there's a reason why, you know, there's a fantastic Twitter account called The Other 14. The reason for that is that when you look at the finances of the top 6, and you've got to include Tottenham in that now because of the money they make out of that stadium, you know, eventually will embarrass our move for me.
And the thing is, you've got to look, there's other gateways into these competitions now. You know, you win the Europa League, you win the Champions League.
Yeah,
and you're not in a qualifier, you go into the group. You're straight into the group stages, and the same for the conference. You're in the Europa League the following year. So if you have an off-league season and you finish 11th,
like
12th,
Eintracht
13th,
Frankfurt,
yeah, you know, it doesn't matter because the following year you're there anyway. So, and you win something.
Yeah,
you know, I think that means more than a league position. Which is just
so. What
money.
you guys are saying is a cup, whether it be the domestic one or the Europa Conference, we should be aiming for much more than the league, and that isn't because there's no ambition. It's just the reality of where we are as a football club.
You got to look at it still, right? No one ever looks at the history of football clubs and looks at their honours and goes, "Oh, they finished 4th. Amazing that." They look and they go, "Oh, they've won the FA Cup this many times. They've won the league this many times." They don't. No one gives a shit about a league position, mate. No one.
I'm going to go back though to ask the same question again because Nigel, you know it's going to happen, mate. You know it's going to happen. If we do well in a domestic cup, or no, if we do well in a cup competition, whatever it is, and we finish 11th, the fans are going to go fucking shit. Fans are going to go, what an awful season. You know, because of the expectation, they will see, yeah, we got the cup, but we finished 10th, we finished 11th. Has our expectation gone overboard? Has it got to a point where we're believing our own hype?
I don't know.
West Ham are massive. We're believing our own hype.
This is the thing. Don't other fans of other clubs don't Leicester? I don't know what Leicester fans said now that they finished wherever they finished. Where did Leicester finish? 8th or 9th?
I know a few Leicester fans, and they're very tongue in cheek about
after
where the club is now.
Yeah, but I mean, this is Leicester, who were top 4 for 2 seasons running until the last game of the season, where they both times they finished 5th. But then they won the FA Cup to nullify that pain. This season, they had a good, run, didn't they? In Europe, as such, they dropped into the Conference League. Didn't they get to the semis of that? So got beat by Roma, go on to win it. You know, we got beat by Frankfurt, to go on to win it. So I don't know. I don't know any Leicester fans, I must admit, to know what they're saying, but they don't seem to get hung up. I'm friends on Twitter with a few Southampton fans. I don't ever hear them complaining the way we do. But then again, the way I see it is there's so many different factions of West Ham fans now, because we've got what we call and this ain't my word. This is what someone else pinned it. It's called legacy fans. It's already hangover from the dark days, who actually went football for fun, and we just wanted to go football, and we never thought we'd win the league, and we were just happy with whatever we got. But there was always the undercurrent of a lack of ambition against the club. Then you got the fans that have never seen West Ham win anything, but would like to see us win something. And then you get the modern day social media era of fans who also perhaps got sold a dream in going to that stadium, and quite rightly, at the end of the day, I can't argue against these people when they go, we need to be doing this because this is why we moved. And, who am I to argue against that? Because actually, and this is where I then look at the owners and go, oh, it's either time to, put up or piss off, basically. And it does come down to that. But the reason why I don't say that is they ain't got the financial clout to put up.
In comparison to
how much will it cost? I'll ask you two a question. How much do you think it would cost to make West Ham a top 4 team 2 seasons running?
A regular top 4 team.
So that's, how much do you think it will take?
I'd say 250 to 300 mil.
What, for the 2 seasons or a season?
2 seasons.
To build a team to keep us in the top 4 for 2 seasons running.
Yeah, at least 300 million. At least. Looking at the team now.
300 million? We just spent nearly 40 million on one player, a defender. And
hang on a minute. But having said that, I've always been the advocate of and I've been quite adamant about it, that you don't always necessarily have to spend big to break that top. I mean, we came close to it to season before last when we a couple of points off top 4, with the squad that we had. And that was by buying players to keep us out of relegation. Bowen and Southgate, who cost 19-20 million pound each. The one thing that I will give Moyes credit for is he doesn't necessarily.
Because the thing is, that was for 1 season. Yeah, we nearly challenged. You will get a team that will challenge for 1 season, but to actually do it and stay there, go and have a look. Yeah, and see how much it costs. Pay things. I think West Ham would need to spend 400 to 500 million pound to build a team that will compete regular for a top 4 space.
Well, yeah, and to be fair,
ain't got that. They ain't gonna do that.
You have to look as well at, there's obviously lots of things that come into play. It's not just what West Ham do. You've got to go and look at what other clubs are doing. Liverpool just dropping 80 million on a striker, City just dropping 60 million on a striker. They're always going to continue to get better. You look at Tottenham's window. Tottenham have brought in a couple of good players already. Making Kulusevski like a permanent fixture. The Basuma one, obviously, there's question marks over it because of the stuff that's going on with his personal life. But that's a good signing. The player is a good player. You've got to look at what other clubs are doing, and if they're improving, you've got to improve along with them. And if you can't keep up, then you ain't getting in.
This is an interesting point that Andrew's made. We've always had awful owners, and I would attest to that. Nigel, the history of it. You've talked about the owners even before the current owners. Nothing will ever change until someone comes along. Now, this is another expectation, and we've just spoken briefly about Kretinsky and so on. What are we expect? I mean, we must be the only London club that isn't fancied by some fucking mega rich fucking oil baron or, Arab sheikh or whatever. What is it about West Ham that, we see Chelsea being bought out by, even now Bowley, who's maybe not as rich, or maybe he is as rich as the previous owner, has bought Chelsea.
Bowley's part of a consortium. He's
part of a consortium,
and you got to remember Roman's hand was forced there.
Yeah, no, I know. But what I'm alluding to is, Chelsea have had to sell, and yet they've had a really, a consortium, a mega rich person, whatever it may be.
But what you got to look at, what you got to look at there though, still is what have Chelsea won in the last 10 years?
Yeah, granted.
What players play for?
Wasn't it Roman Abramovich who set them back on that trail again? You know,
Yeah,
because
but you've still got to look at that, and it's an
yeah,
attractive proposition. You've got to look at it. You've got to look at the big picture sometimes. Someone outside looking in, looking at West Ham, you want to buy them. The rumoured figure that Sullivan wants is about 600 million. We don't even own the ground. Where does that 600 million pound come from? You know, it's it's out there that the training facilities are not up to Premier League standard. You know, what are you buying for that money? That's got the that's got to come into it.
I guess what I'm asking is, you know, Spurs. Levy's a tight ass, but he still spends money, and I guess he's got a good manager now who can spend the money for him. Arsenal, they went through the phase when they moved stadiums, but they're financially viable. Chelsea, what is it? I mean, do you ever foresee? I mean, we've had Kretinsky come in, and all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, look at his record, as you said, Nigel. Look at his record in the Czech Republic. Are we not as an attractive proposition of a project that someone will go, fuck it, I'm
But
going
do
to
you
come
want
and
a
buy
project?
West Ham?
I'm
playing devil's
no,
advocate.
yeah, but this is the
know.
thing where people that don't know me will go, "Oh, fucking bald lover," because I will go. But do we want to be that club? Do we
I
want
think
to
a lot
be?
of fans
Well, hold up,
believe that we should be.
Derby County, yeah. Were they not a project for Mel Morris?
Yeah.
You know, and this is the thing you got to be careful. Where I'll be careful of is that what happens is what happens if Kretinsky turns up, spends 500-600 million pound buying the club, spends another. We've just said so. He's just bought the club, spends another 500 million pound to try and break the top four, £1 billion then, and he don't do it. Now, this is a man who spends money to get a return. So if he does it, he ain't getting a return. Yeah? What does he do? Because this is what's happened to loads of football clubs.
Yeah.
Loads of football clubs. The reason Derby are in a mess ain't because they got relegated, because the geezers threw money at Derby to get them promoted. And the playoff final that Lampard lost has set Derby to where they are now. That's
and
how,
that could happen.
that could happen. And that's so. What you're saying is, if you become a project, what you've going to do is you're going down Asper's Casino and you're sticking all your money on red, and you got your eyes shut and your fingers crossed and hoping when she shouts it out, it comes in red. Because if it drops in black or green, you got a problem.
The only owners that can come in and do that sort of thing are your Saudi owners.
But this is why I'm asking the question, Dan. You know, are we not, the fact that we're in London, the fact that we now have a 60,000 seater capacity stadium, whether it be a football stadium or not?
I just don't look. I'm a West Ham fan. I love the club, as all three of us do. Everyone in the chat loves the club. But if you're looking at it from the outside in, I don't actually think I don't think we're an attractive proposition for someone to come and buy us. We don't own the ground. There isn't just money that needs pumping into the squad. You need to build new training facilities that are up to standard. You're probably going to have to look at buying that stadium. And if you do buy that stadium, you're then going to want to retrofit it again to make it a proper football ground. Because it ain't. It ain't. We can all sit here. I'm not going to moan about the ground. I don't actually have too much of an issue with it anymore. We had a few good nights over there last season where it did really get going, but it don't happen enough. But I think that's on the fans rather than it is the ground, because we've proved that it can be done. But it still needs to be turned into a proper football ground. Look at the state of it for these games that have just been played, the charity games and that.
The charity game, I saw the photos and I was shocked at how awful
it's got to be done properly, and so you've got to look at it. For anyone that's investing money, they're not just going to have to spend money on the squad, because it's more than that, because that's what makes it attractive to players. Players don't just turn up.
But when you attract a fucking mega rich owner, they'll look at the training ground and they'll look at the stadium and they'll look at other things and go, fuck that, it's nothing. That's fucking pocket money for me. I'll do it.
How many of them are out there still?
But this is why I'm asking the question, I guess, and why I'm pushing this is like, are we not attractive enough as a London club who have done all right? Only over the years we've won a few cups, etc. We've been up at a yo-yo club, etc. But over the last couple of years, demonstrated that we can be a solid team that can go forward, etc. Wouldn't someone go, I fancy a bit of that? Not Nigel. I mean,
no, but still, but this is the thing: the people that buy football clubs, for this reason. So what we got now is we've either got Arab countries or Americans buying football clubs.
yeah.
Even the Chinese have stopped coming over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Walsall have just been built by Americans. Yeah. So and this is the thing. You know, we've seen what happened with Wrexham's been bought by Americans. You know, Premier League club, you got to pay all the money up front to get it. As Dan then just alludes, you know, you got all the infrastructure that needs doing. You got to compete with the squad. Where's the return? These people do it for a return. As much as I do, you know, I do really dislike and detest Golden Sullivan.
Yeah.
They're not there for a return, not like the big boys are. Now, Newcastle's owners, are they in it for a return? Well, they're owned by an investment fund. So you'd think, well, possibly they are. But they're so wealthy. They're a bloody country. You know, they're going to tie up sponsorship deals. Look, you know, we've all seen what's going to happen. You know, they're going to be sponsored by a non-betting company. You can bet your life because they're not allowed to bet in Saudi Arabia. So they're going to get these new sponsorship deals done when the current ones run out. You know, it possibly could leave. I mean, I don't know if that's true about their third kit, their away kit. Is almost like the colours of the Saudi Arabian flag.
Oh, really?
The white and with green piping. You know, and you think then you think, well, that's we all know what life is like for the wrong people in Saudi Arabia. But how many more Arab countries? Qatar owns Paris Saint-Germain. Abu Dhabi owns Manchester City. Saudi Arabia, who's left? Yemen? Well, they're bankrupt. Perhaps they could buy us. You know, imagine, you know, what Arab countries are there? Iran? Iraq?
That'd be interesting.
Well, no, this is the thing. Have a look out there, you know.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll get Kuwait. I don't know. You know, but and someone's walking in now. The real riches for a return is top four. With Newcastle, we've now got 7 clubs who will expect Champions League football going forward.
Yeah.
7 clubs chasing 4 spaces. Just
it's going to get harder up there, and it's going to get busier, isn't it?
Just qualifying for Europe will be an achievement next season. Honestly, you know, because Newcastle are going to be looking. We need 6th or 7th spot next season.
So and people are saying in the chat, you know, we asked the question earlier on about, you know, what do we want to win, and most people are talking about win a domestic cup. You know, and almost, I'm not suggesting that they're saying let's not worry about the domestic, you know, where we finish. Look, Andrew, FA Cup 11th place, you know, and it means more because it's kind of what we've all said before as well, isn't it? It's a fucking great day out, a cup final.
Yeah,
it's a great day out.
Well, look, even the League Cup final. This is, I don't know if people realise, if you win the League Cup final, it's that puts you in the Conference League.
Yeah.
The fact is that for the last God knows how many years, you know, Man City won it 4 years on the trot, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know, now Liverpool won it.
And that's why it dropped down to 7th.
Yeah, that's why. That's the only reason why 7th spot gets Europe. You don't get Conference League football, European Conference League football, by a league position. You get it by winning the League Cup. But if a top 4 team, the runner-up in the League Cup final, don't get it. So if a top 4 team wins that cup, then it drops down into the league.
Nick's on. What time did he make that comment? About 20 minutes ago. Great show, lads. My argument with going for the cups and not worrying about the league is all about momentum. I don't think you can pick and choose.
I don't think it's so much about not worrying about the league. I just think it's about I just think you have to look. We all see that Moyes put the Europa League ahead of the league in the latter stages. when we got to the business end of that competition, you know, he was taking that far more seriously than he was the league. You know, I think the league is probably every manager's priority at the beginning. But if you get to the latter stages of a cup, then you're closer to winning something. And if you're at that stage, semi-finals, you kind of got a feel for whether or not you're going to finish top 4 by then, surely, because there isn't much of the season left, is there?
Yeah. Tony's asking, what happened to the money for the league position in Europe? 250 mil. We ain't got anywhere near that, have we, to spend on? I mean,
no, but the thing
Sullivan's new missus look like she's got new tits. So
fucking hell, that hat.
yeah,
Fucking hell. The thing about money, what you got to remember is what's our wage bill? 50% of our income, 55% of our income, maybe more, is just spent on wages alone for the players without running the club and everything else. So, I mean, and this is the anomaly. I mean, you know, if we trust Sean's figures, and apparently they are near the mark, you know, the run in Europe got us 35 to 40 million pound.
Well, he was a bit disingenuous about that when I tackled him on that. Because he started off with 14, it went down to something like 12 or something ridiculous.
No. So you got to split it. There's prize money and the extra ticket money we got. But the thing about extra ticket money we got is, I don't know if we must have had more than 25 games at the London Stadium. So therefore you have to factor in the extra charges we would have had to pay for the stadium. So it's but the thing about the European games was all of them sold out like properly.
Yeah.
So big paydays on the tickets. So you know that's you know people could think we should have, if you wanted it, 150 million with Kaczynski, with the Europe money, with the league position money, and with the January money. If Moyes wanted to spend 150 million, he should have it. Ifs, buts, and maybes, though.
Right. 150 million. Can David Moyes, Dan, does David Moyes know how to spend 150 million pound in the transfer market? Can he spend that?
I think
if he's
he
told,
can.
do you honestly think he can?
Look, I think any manager can spend the money. How they go about it is the way they want to go about it, though. He divers. He does div on every single transfer, right? The striker situation comes down to him trying to find an Antonio 2.0. And unfortunately, there isn't anyone out there that does it like Antonio. Because let's all be very honest about Antonio. One week, he can be fucking brilliant. The next week, he can be a pile of shit. And I've seen better over Sunday League. He honestly... I cannot get my head around Antonio.
I've seen you lose it over him.
I can't get my head around him. I can't. There was a game last season still when I was stood with you and we was watching him and he had a shot and honestly, it hit the rafters and I'm like, what is going on? And then literally it must have been 30 seconds later, he picks it up, he rolls the defender, he bends it and it's the post and we're like, well, where did that come from? Like he makes no sense to me, the geezer. He literally makes no sense to me. But you're just not going to find another geezer who's built like that, moves like that. He's going to hold the ball up like that.
Sam Maximum.
But you're not going to... But
he ain't nowhere near the same, though.
But my point is, though, Nige, you're not going to find him for 15 million, are you?
No, but if you look at the age of Sam Maximum and where Antonio was playing at the same age, Sam Maximum's in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one who I thought we could have got, even though I know he's gone to Barcelona, but I still don't see him being a success there. He could come back. Is Adama Traore.
Oh, he is coming back. Yeah, he's coming back.
But they're the only two. And this is the thing.
I really don't like Traore at all.
If he wanted, he's got the pace. He needs to work on the finishing, but he seems to score against us. But the thing about it is, that's the two. When you look around the whole Premier League or whatever, there was only those two that you could say were shadows of Antonio.
See, this actually tackles one of Moyes' weak points in that he is very one-dimensional. Very one-dimensional, especially when it comes to transfers. You know, he sees who he wants. He goes like Lingard is a perfect example of him being one-dimensional. He wants and wants and wants and wants. He got to the point where it's fucking embarrassing. It was like someone stalking their ex-girlfriend, weren't it? And the bird's just like, no, I'm not interested, mate. Like, it's so embarrassing. It got to that point. You know, he don't want to come back. Just leave it.
I actually gave up finally this week when I read a few things, and we spoke to our ITK, Sean Whetstone.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, Sean
Lingard
disagrees with me, but until he signs for another club,
he'll still be chasing him.
do
This
you
is
know
what worries me, Nigel.
Yeah,
This is
think
what worries me.
Yeah, that
come
worries
August
me.
the 31st, if Lingard ain't got a football club,
We're still going to be trying to get him.
See him holding. Well, you know, the kid's got to earn a nickel, isn't he? So
he might as well come to us if nowhere else.
You know, I think Moyes will always have him, wouldn't he?
Yeah. While we're on, I should have done this earlier, so let's do this now. Now, that's a great video. But Andy, if you're still watching, I've got to have a fucking word with you about the music, mate. that was a shit Pulp Fiction, that was. But seriously, if you want to listen, if you want to get an update on all transfer rumors, stories, details about players, you know, links, videos, you name it, go to 6foot2.co.uk, because I'll tell you what, Andy's done fucking well there. I won't lie. It's pretty good. But Andy, change the music. I'll give you some hints later on.
I mean, we've signed no one, so we've spent. So it even tells you, look, we've spent
nothing,
but we've still got 75 days, 23 hours, 18 hours, and 16 seconds until the transfer window's shut. So even if you just want to look at the transfer window countdown clock as it ticks away.
That will get people going. They're just watching that clock going down and go, that amount is still zero. 5 days to go, still zero.
But I'll just point out, if anybody thinks I had anything to do with the design of the transfer centre, you couldn't be far wrong. That's all Andy's work. It's that good.
It's very good. It's very good.
I dip in the videos, even Stell's face, you know. I had to allow some things, blimey.
No, it's great. Seriously, people, if you've yet to subscribe to 6foot2.co.uk, do it, because there's no need to go elsewhere. You know, forget all the shit fucking rumors and Twitter and all that. If you want all your information, I'm on there, so it can't be that bad. So there you go. No, Andy, it's really good. It's really good. It's a really good transfer window. It's a good site. You know, Nigel writes his articles, you know, about the history of West Ham, and, you know, especially the younger fans, you should educate yourselves about, you know, West Ham United. There you go. Right. What else should we talk about before we bid farewell? Anything you guys want to talk? Dan, you got your website. Talk about that.
I haven't got a website.
I thought you were starting one up.
No, I've got my football channel that's starting, but honestly, mate, I ain't even thought about it. I've got a 2-year-old.
Right. Well, we're gonna have to get you back on here then.
Yeah, no.
For 1 or 2 shows.
Yeah, I'll have to just come on here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've every good intention to get my football channel up and running again, and every time I sit down to work on it, something comes up. So
Fair play. Let's go through a bit of the chat then. Peter asks, have you heard that the board is calling a meeting in a week or two to discuss transfer? I mean, this is a weird one, isn't it? I reckon they're talking about, they're having a meeting. Surely they've had a meeting about transfers already.
This is the thing. This is where a little bit of
shenanigans.
This is the problem where I take the people that write articles to task, because they'll bang out these 150 words, paragraphs, call them articles, give people a third of the information, and then people are not equipped. Basically, when Krasinski bought into the club, it was written down that any transfers over £2 million had to be agreed by the board. Now, well, hold up, but again, it's just a rubber stamping thing. I don't believe this is a meeting where they're going to sit down and go, all right, what do we think about him? What do we think about him? Don't you think the board always sit down at the end of the season in June or July when they've all had holidays and whatever and had meetings? I bet this is nothing new, but it's dressed up because there's nothing to write about and they want to punt out their 20 stories, and people read it, and this is where I lie, and believe me, people, I tell him directly to his face, as I will tomorrow, even though he's retired, but still wrote 4.5 articles the other day. The problem with, we could debate social media more, that this is the problem with, and I don't think it's just West Ham. I think it's social media, like football. People are so, I mean, in the day, so it seems a bit funny. I'm sitting on a YouTube channel and going, people are so information hungry. But the reason why they're watching this, I suppose, is for information, is it not? So sometimes
that's the bottom line.
The thing is, Stell's kind of alluded to it already. We sit inside our West Ham bubble, and Stell's just asked about My Footy Channel. My Footy Channel is me inviting fans of all clubs to come on and talk about their clubs, whether it be transfers, whether it be how their season's going, and all that sort of stuff. So that all the other teams are doing the same thing we do. We just notice it more with West Ham because that's the bubble we sit in.
That's a good point, because I've forgotten to allude to that earlier. We look at West Ham, we look at Twitter and Facebook and all that, all West Ham stuff, and we think it's the end of the world, don't we? It's like, oh my God, how can we be so bad? How can we be so bad at transfers? How can we be so bad at this? How can we be so bad at? I looked. How many teams have actually bought players in this window so far?
I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now, still, on social media, obviously, as a result of doing my channel, I end up following fans from all over the place. Manchester United fans and Leicester fans are doing exactly what we're doing on social media, moaning about their windows because they haven't done anything yet. And they know they've got to rebuild and they know they need players. They're doing the same thing we are.
Do you want me to give you a breakdown still? From 6'2".
Oh God! Well, that's what it's there for.
the transfer thing. No, because it is good. Because the thing is, if you really want to wind yourself up, go and look at what the other teams have signed. Because obviously we ain't got signed anyone. So the Euro challengers, which is Villa, Leicester, Newcastle, West Ham, and Wolves. Wolves, no one. West Ham, no one officially, but stand by your beds. Newcastle. I bought Target from Villa for 15 million. Leicester, no one. Yeah, then Villa though have spent money. Coutinho signed Kamara from Marseille, Carlos from Seville, and Olsen from Roma. Then we move on. The big six. Arsenal made a couple of signings. There's Marquinhos from Sao Paulo and Fabio Vieira. Chelsea, no one. Just been bought by these billionaires. Bought no one, no. Liverpool, we know, have bought Carvalho for free, and then Nunes they bought from Barca. Man City have spent the most money on one player, 67 million, Haaland. Man United, no one. Spurs, though, different. They've brought in Perisic for free. Forster from Southampton. Fraser Forster, who's a backup keeper at the end of the day. Third choice probably. And then obviously they've just brought Bissouma. Well, that's a bit of a gamble though, isn't it? Then the rest
Has
of the
that been
Premier League.
confirmed, Bissouma?
Yeah, today.
Yeah,
That has
today
been
by the
confirmed,
Tottenham website. Yeah.
Right.
So Brighton have spent 10 million on a geezer from Libertad in Cisco. Don't know. Bournemouth, no one. Brentford, no one. Palace, no one. Everton, no one. Fulham, no one. Leeds have bought 3 players. Forest haven't bought anyone, and Southampton have bought a geezer called Bazunu from Man City. Never heard of him. 12 million.
Yeah, goalkeeper. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. So there's not a lot realistically going on, you know. So, I mean, our team officially, we've lost 4 players: Yarmolenko, Fredericks, David Martin, and Mark Noble. None of which were first 11 starters.
Yep.
So, and you know, I may be a bit harsh, but only 2 of them were really first team squad players.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So
George asked, did we not just sign a centre back? We officially no, but unofficially, yeah. You know,
it's only
Aguerd had his
official,
medical.
George, when the club tell you. Don't not, you know, the other people are well connected and they probably are right, but officially, you know, I mean, the fact that unofficially it's been announced, for me, it's not a criticism of the people that have done it. It's a criticism of the club. They know long enough now. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, it seems to be almost deliberate.
Got to get their little videos put together, though, haven't they?
Oh,
you know.
Well, actually, I am then going to finish on this one then. This has got to be official, isn't it?
Well, he's not signed yet, is he?
Yeah, but I know, but surely there's not going to be a complication without. We were led to believe that even his wages have been agreed.
Oh, that was the initial complication, though, weren't it?
Yeah, that was the initial. But apparently, PSG have said that they'll subsidise. I don't believe Sean saying that they subsidise in 80 grand of his 125 grand wage. I think it's they're subsidising 40 grand of his 125 grand wages.
Oh, the way they'll do that is they'll give him a payoff to go.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which will yeah.
They'll
So we'll pay him 180 grand a week.
Look, it's a signing that makes sense.
A week, and yeah,
you know, it's a signing that makes sense, isn't it? You know, the fee is less than what was originally agreed as well, if you believe everything you read.
Yeah.
And we've got to start looking at the next number one. You know,
number one next season.
For me, as good as Fab was in games, you could see it's caught up with him.
Yeah.
He started doing that thing that all goalkeepers do when their agility goes, when he drops to one knee, when it's, you know, and he kind of gave up diving for it a few times, and a few mistakes crept in, didn't they, this season? Unfortunately.
But Areola had a few.
Oh yeah, I'm in no way saying he was perfect.
One. I'm putting together because I'm expecting them both to be announced either this weekend or early next week, and I put together a collage of a video collage of both players. So when they're announced, I'll get those up on the channel. Lads, we've done just under 2 hours. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed it, we'll have you back. We won't do these too regularly on a Friday night, but every now and again. And thank you all for getting involved in the chat as well. Much appreciated. Sorry I couldn't put out all your comments, but hopefully I'll put up enough because engaging with you guys watching is important. I'll be back next week with West Ham Weekly, and there'll be a few other shows as well thrown in for good measure. Do subscribe to 6foot2.co.uk. Look out for Dan's channel when he finally gets it going, and if he doesn't, he'll just come on and do a couple of shows for me instead. So there you go. Thank you all very much, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and have a great weekend.